Good morning, Chai. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well as well. It's before actually I hit record here, um, and we had this little pre-chat that we had, as I do with all the guests on the podcast, and I heard some birds chirping, and it sounds like early morning birds. So where are you exactly on the world?
We are in California.
Uh huh.
So, to be precise, we're close to San Francisco.
Close to San Francisco. Is that below or above? Because or east? Because west would be difficult.
It is, I think, I'm not sure. I'm not very geographically good.
I I hear more people suffer from that. They're geographically impaired, they say, right?
Near.
Yeah. Can you give me a place, a city?
It's Fremont. So, it's,
That's the south. That's the South Bay.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. San Francisco Bay Area, Silicon Valley, that kind of area, and it's early morning. You said it's like 6:30 or something in the morning.
Yeah.
All right, excellent, good. All right, if you want to get a glimpse of the backdrop where Chai is actually sitting, and an early morning glimpse of Fremont, which is the South Bay of San Francisco, you can go to culturematters.com/YouTube because we're actually videotaping this as well. Great. Okay, now we have you on the podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please. Where do you come from? Where are you now? Well, that part we know already. And what would you consider your cultural frame of reference? There are a lot of questions, but take your time to answer.
I am from India. So, I grew up in India and I came to the United States in 2001,
Uh-huh.
actually a month before 9/11 happened.
Okay.
I am an engineer by degree and by profession.
Uh-huh.
So I work full time as an engineer in the Silicon Valley, and I work for a medical device company that makes implantable devices for the brain. So that's my full time job.
Yeah.
And my part time job is writing. So I've been writing since I was 12 years old.
Uh-huh.
Initially, when I came here, my stepdad's a web engineer, so I would write a lot of content for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a passion. That was just something to do outside the technology world that kept me sane. And then once I started working, I decided to write my own book in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend and I, we wrote a book called America Deconstructed,
Mm-hmm.
which is a short story book about immigrants in America. And we interviewed 16 people and wrote their story, which is pretty much they talk about their culture, where they come from,
Mm-hmm.
how they came here.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm from India, so
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's an interesting backdrop and background already. And so you came to the United States in 2001.
yes,
Correct? Out from India, that is.
yes.
So I want to talk about the book in a moment as well, because that's actually the main reason why you're on the show. But since you are Indian and this is the Culture Matters podcast, we talk about culture and cultural differences. I'd like to dig in a little bit deeper in your own experience because I'm not going to ask how old you are, but you look at least above 18, if I can be so liberal to
Actually,
guesstimate that. Pardon?
I'm 16. I'm 16. I'm an overachiever. No, I'm actually over 18.
It's a good thing. Otherwise, you have to sign another form for sure to get on this show.
I'm
All right.
over.
No, you're good. And that means that you came to the United States well knowing your background in India, I guess. Correct? Yes.
Yes, I
So, which part of India are you from? Because that determines to some extent also a different outlook.
I'm from the southern part of India.
Which is
So,
which state?
so my parents are from a state called Kerala,
Uh huh.
which is the southernmost. I think it's almost the tip of India. It's a coastal area of India.
Uh huh.
But I grew up in a metropolitan city called Bangalore,
Uh huh.
which is
Okay.
also in the south. But yeah, that's
Yes.
where I was born and raised.
Okay, it's the most educated state in India
Yes, yes,
in terms of literacy rate, that is. And then
yeah.
for those of you statisticians, the overall literacy rate in India is about 65, according to the latest census. That was 65% of the population can read and write. And guess what the percentage in Kerala is? Would you know by any chance, Chai?
It's around 90. I think it's over 90%.
Yeah, it's 99%. Yeah, close to everybody can read and write. Yes. So there's a distinct difference when it comes to culture within India if you travel from north to south, and to some extent lesser if you travel from east to west. There are differences, but they're not as strong between the north and the south, I guess. Would you agree?
there is a lot of difference.
There is a lot of difference. Yes,
Yeah,
it's true. Go ahead.
no, that's it.
Okay, talking about difference and cultural differences, what was the your biggest shock, if you want, or eye opener, or I don't know, misunderstanding, or enlightenment, or something like that when you came to the United States first and started living there? Because there's a distinct difference between going on holiday to a country and staying there for 2 weeks and actually, going over and, well, not going back, at least not within a reasonable period of time, and starting to live in another country. So how did that go for you?
So just a little background. When I came to the United States, that was the first time I was traveling outside of India.
Mm-hmm.
We traveled a little bit, just visiting family and stuff within India, but never really outside of India. So, but I come from a multicultural family. My grandmother is Anglo-Indian, so I already had a lot of the Western influence in my life.
Uh-huh.
People here, every time they talk to me, they're like, "Oh, you're not the typical Indian," which I don't know what that means, because the India I grew up in was very, very diverse.
Yeah.
And so when I came here, I spoke good English. I used to MC a lot of shows. I used to host shows back in my high school. So I was very confident in my English speaking skills. And yet when I came here, the very first class I took in college, because I came here for college, was a public speaking class. And I was so nervous to speak. I could not speak. I was literally shaking. And so my professor gave me a podium because I was shaking so much.
Even though your English was good, it was not the English thing.
Good.
Yeah.
And also I came from an all-girls school, and I was in a co-education, so that was also a very big difference. Yeah. Besides that, I mean, it was everyday things like, walking on the street in America, people greet you. In India, people don't greet you. And so the very first time I was walking in the street, somebody said, "Hi, how are you?" And I actually stopped, and I was going to tell him exactly how I was feeling. And this guy just walked past me, and I'm like, "Why are you walking? Like, I'm standing right here."
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that "Hi, how are you" is just a greeting, because
That's what it is. Yeah.
And so these were these small things. Like, I mean, I remember my stepdad came here 6 months before we did, my mom and I. And so he said, "Oh, in America, there's nobody on the streets." Mm-hmm. And in India, we have a billion, over a billion. So many people on the street. And so for me, that was a big shock, because you come here from there to here, and the very first time you walk on the street and you don't see anybody, and it's like, wow, do people not walk here?
Uh-huh.
We didn't have a car, so we were possibly the three people walking on the street a lot, to get food or whatever. So those were the biggest differences initially that I saw. Okay. It got worse once I started going to college, because the syllabus was different. Understanding different accents was very hard, because there are a lot of Asians here. Uh-huh. And Asian accents were totally new to me. So I took a computer engineering class, and my professor was Asian, and it took me 1 week to even understand anything he spoke. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to study, because I don't know what he's talking to me.
That's so good. So at this moment, you've been here, which is in the United States. You've been there, like, you're in your 16th or 17th year at this moment. Are there still things that you wonder, that you understand to some extent, but still wonder, like, it's still not me?
Yes, there's a lot, because my husband's African American, so he's born and raised in the United States, and I'm not. And it makes for a very interesting everyday life, because we have simple issues like the words I use, the way I say certain things, and to this day, we've been married for 8 years, and he still cracks up when I say, like calcium, because they say calcium here.
Okay.
Oh, that's funny. And I have more of a British accent. I guess when I was in India, and when I came here, it somehow changed into some kind of an accent that I don't know what it is.
It's not as strong Indian as the normal, the average Indian, if you want.
Right. And so a lot of people don't think I'm from here as well, which is a big thing for, I guess, because they're like, "Oh, you don't speak Indian English, so you're not from India." And I'm like, "No, I am from India. I look Indian, I think."
Yes.
But yeah, there are. I work in the Silicon Valley, and I guess I speak faster than a lot of people. I guess coming from where I do, and also the language I grew up speaking at home is faster. It's Malayalam, and it's a little more faster than other Indian languages. Uh-huh. And so my English is faster, and so my bosses, they have a hard time understanding me sometimes. They're like, slow down, you're going too fast. And things like that. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I still see is people still have no idea what India is like.
Yes.
And I think that's where I find it hard, because a lot of people try to tell me about India and what they think it is, and I'm like, no, but I grew up there for 17 years. I think I know it more than you do. So that's the struggle usually.
Have you stopped not contradicting, but have you stopped explaining to the people how it really was, or do you just let them talk?
It's changed a lot, I think. When I first came here, my very first instance of that was in college, where this guy told me, "Oh, you must be really glad you take showers in the bathroom, because in India people take showers on the street." And I'm like, what? No, I didn't take. And we had a whole debate, and I'd just been 6 months, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to tell you exactly what it's like." And I was
Yes.
very, very defensive about it. But now I just let people talk. Like, I traveled quite a bit, and I think I was in Dominica, and I met this guy who traveled to India for like 2 weeks. And he told me, "Oh, India is like this and like that," and I just let it be. I'm like, "That's fine." I'm
That's what I figured. That's what you should. Okay, look, just forget it. It's. I know how it is. I'm not here to better the world, really.
Yeah.
And you're also saying yes and no with the Western way, if you want, and not the Indian wobbly head, as they say.
No,
that's one of the stereotypes, I guess. No,
it is. It is, and I didn't realize it until. I think, my parents are both Indian, so, Indian is predominantly in my house. And so when my husband got married, we got married and, we moved in, and my husband's like, "Oh, a lot of the Indians, like, they do the head shake." And I'm like, "Really?" And that's when I started noticing, because for me, it was just normal that people talk like that. I just didn't notice it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been married to an Indian myself for 10 years. And I could never. I had to sit down with my mother-in-law, my Indian mother-in-law, because if I would ask her, would you not want some tea, she would just simply go like this. And then I would say, "Do you want some coffee?" And she would go like. And then I said, "Mita, we need to sit down, because I can't read the code that you're signaling to me. And you would really help me if you could just, help me by saying a yes or a no, because I can't read between those lines. I don't have that ability." So that was an interesting conversation we had at that time.
Yeah, even in my house, we live with my parents, and my husband and my mom. Sometimes they have those issues. It's like cultural differences, I'm like, because my husband's African American, and generally speaking, they're louder than the in India, or women are not used to that high of a volume, I guess, from men. And so initially my mom's like, "Oh, why is he screaming at me?" I'm like, "No, he's not screaming at you. That's how he talks." And she's like, "Oh, okay." But initially, like, she had no idea. She's like, "Oh, this guy's always screaming at me."
So impolite. What did I do wrong? Yes. After 16 years of the United States, what do you miss most from India, or about India?
Everything. India is home. It's always home, because for me it's a little different. Most people come to the United States because there's a lot of planning involved. They take years to plan their move to the United States. For us, it was a little different. My stepdad got transferred from India to here, so we had like 6 months. Okay. So I was already planning to go to college in India, and I had all my plans down, and then everything changed and I had to move out here. So the first 2 years that I was here, I tried to revolt, and I'm not generally a very rebellious person, but I'm like, I'm going to try to revolt this so I can go back to India, and my parents are going to get so tired of me and just ship me back, and everything's going to be great. But it didn't happen, and they were like, "We know you're just acting out, so just sit and study." It didn't work. Everything. I've gone back twice, and I see so much difference. But the thing that's always constant is the whole Indian culture, which is people being friendly. My friends are there. I grew up with these people, and those things don't change. Yeah. So everything. Yeah. It's everything. Yeah.
Good. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for this very extensive background. It's nice to hear like this as well, from the Indian side, and then having 16 years, which is a good chunk of experience in the United States as well. So I have a couple of questions for you, being an engineer, and then you had a hobby which was writing. And then you guys, which is your co-writer. Sorry, I lost her name, to be honest.
Shaima.
Yeah.
Her name is Shaima.
Yes. She is from Pakistan originally?
She's from Afghanistan. And then she moved to Pakistan.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And you decided, okay, let's do this hobby. Let's do something with this hobby, and let's write this book. Tell us a little bit about what the book is. You mentioned it briefly, but just run it by us again, please.
It's called America Deconstructed. And so initially, Shaima and I are friends from college. So we both are engineers, and we met in engineering school.
You have to speak a little bit closer to the microphone, please.
And Shaima and I are both engineers, and we met in college, and we were best friends, and we would talk about our everyday, about people. I mean, people having all these preconceived notions about our culture.
Uh-huh.
Something as simple as she would tell me that, I go to get coffee and I never say my name is Shaima because people can't say it or spell it out. And so I say my name is Sally. And so, and my name is Chaitanya. And in college, I was called Shitanya by my professor because he couldn't say my name. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, this is it. So I've not changed my name, but anytime people ask me what's your name, I say, hey, my name is Chaitanya, but you can call me Chai, so it's easier. And so we would talk about these funny instances that happened to us. And that's how the book happened. The book is a short story collection. Mm-hmm. We interviewed 16 people, two of us being me and her.
Yeah.
And 14 other people from Afghanistan. There's people from Philippines, Kosovo, one lady from Britain. All these people moved to the United States, and we've told their story, and we've focused more on the human side of immigration, which is, the situations that arise from cultural differences. I mean, the British lady, Molly, she told us about how she didn't know how to turn on a washer and dryer in the United States because it was so different from how it was back home. And her American husband would teach her how to do it. And she would get so mad at him because she's like, I know how to turn this on, but I just can't figure this thing out here.
Right.
And things like that. And as well as having a British accent. And so that's where the book happened. And it's 16 short stories about people who immigrated here and how they came here. What are some of the funny things that happened to them? It's been very free flowing, sort of like this podcast.
Right.
We didn't give them questions ahead of time. We just sat down. We started with, where are you from? And, we just went along and hopefully ended on a positive note. But every story answers a question of which is home, pretty much.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay, that's it. Why this topic? Why not write your own story or that of Shaima?
We decided we want a diverse approach to the stories, and we thought this way we could get a lot more content, a lot more fun stuff. Because our lives are just this much. When we started writing the story, we didn't know where we were going. As far as I wrote mine, and then I interviewed her, and we wrote hers. And it was very similar because we both came here around the same time. We're both engineers. We're both girls. A lot of it was very similar, except for the way she came here and I came here. That was the only different aspect of it. But then we interviewed this guy, Nasir, who'd actually escaped the Taliban, and as a 9-year-old, escaped the Taliban and moved to Dubai. And he was selling eggs and potatoes in a schoolyard. And we're talking about a guy who's like in his early 30s and, is close to our age. And we're like, wow, okay, I never sold anything in my life, Yeah. And so as we started interviewing people, we got a lot more interesting content.
Okay.
I think we wouldn't have gotten if it was just my story and hers, because never really had to struggle a lot to do anything here.
Okay, fair enough. How did you find the people? Were they just were you specifically looking for? I want somebody from the UK. I want somebody from India, Pakistan, or Afghanistan. At this moment, how did you do that?
That's interesting. We had a lot of. She being Afghan, she knew a lot of Afghans. Mm-hmm. I knew quite a bit of Indians. Some of the people I interviewed are people at my work that that came from, like, there was a lady from China, one person from Philippines. But for the European immigrants, that was a little harder because we didn't really know anybody. And so we went on this, we went on one of the websites where you find a lot of freelancers, because that's what I used to use to write, when I was a freelance writer.
Yeah.
And so we used that website, and I paid people to interview for us.
Okay.
And we got a guy from Kosovo, which I thought was very interesting because he's Caucasian.
Yeah.
And as someone who's not white, you would think, oh, for me, people would, see me as an immigrant, but you're white, and what would happen to you? But he talked about coming from like a very small town, like Kosovo, and coming here and telling people, hey, I'm from Kosovo, and people asking him, where is that? Or oh, that's
and where is that?
It's near Albania.
Okay.
So he calls himself an Albanian now.
Kosovo, you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when he came here, he would like, oh, I'm from Kosovo, and people are like, oh, cool, where is that? And okay, people don't even know where I'm from. So we got we got people like that.
Okay, and what is, I mean, other than possibly an economical, like making profit with a book like that, what other goal did you have in mind, objective did you have in mind, you two together?
We didn't, when I started, like, this is an idea that I pitched to Shaima, because, we've been thinking about doing something together, and, writing was something that I know that I can write.
Yeah.
And I think I had the confidence to pitch the idea and say, hey, you know what, we can do this a lot more than something else. When we started it, and even now, I don't think we're not looking for the profits. Yes, we want our book to do good. We want it to be a bestseller, so people can read these stories more so than the profits that come out of it. Because I think especially in today's America, where immigrants are, we're going through our own issues as far as a travel ban and immigrants being targeted, and I think this book kind of shows them in a more positive light versus a legal and illegal, a visa stamp. Do you not have one? It's more about people and how they came here and the culture they bring. And I think when I started this book, the biggest thing that I wanted people to know is every country is not as poor as CNN or BBC makes it seem.
Yes.
There's a good and a bad everywhere. But I think, I think the reason why I wanted to write this book was also because of that, because I dealt with a lot of this when I was here for 16 years, like people not knowing where India is, or, oh, like, what do you guys eat in India? And I'm like, food, things like that. And it's funny because my husband, he's born and raised here, and they're in the Bay Area. They've been here forever, and yet I got married to him. And he told his dad, hey, I'm marrying this girl who's from India. He said, oh, you're getting married to a Native American. He's like, no, I'm getting married to a girl from India.
India,
like,
yes.
2 years, they didn't know what I ate. They were like, oh, you eat curry. And I'm like, but curry is not a dish, things like this. And so I think a lot of this book came from my experiences living in America and having to tell people curry is not a dish, or, just because I don't speak Indian English doesn't mean I couldn't have been born in India, or
Yeah, it's okay. Well, that's good. It's that's interesting to hear about the reasons why you write this book. And another question popped up. Have you heard of the series The Chicken Soup for the Soul? Have you heard that?
I have. I've never watched it.
Okay, well, it's just an idea. Maybe I should pitch it to you privately rather than doing this on the podcast. But it is a collection of stories as well, and it's worth checking out either online or in a real bookstore to flip through it. And they're real people telling real stories, but they don't have the specific angle that you have in terms of immigrants. And I think indeed at this moment. It's very actual. It's even with. Typically with the if I want to say the political situation that the United States is in currently, the polarization going on, etc. It might be a very factual or topical issue to talk about. So I can see a number of part 2 and part 3 books already in my mind. I can see that sort of in a way developing. Yeah, well, think about it. Anyways, so the other question that I was thinking about in preparing and reading through the Facebook page that you have for this book, which is called The American Dream. No, America. Goodness, no. Help me out, because I wrote something totally different.
America
Deconstructed. There we go.
Now I'll tell you how that came along.
Yeah.
Time?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And so I used to watch this show called Chopped, which is a cooking show.
Uh-huh.
And, it's pretty much chefs, they give them a basket of ingredients and they got to make something out of it. And so a lot of people make a Napoleon Deconstructed, Napoleon the dessert, and, they deconstruct it. And so when we're looking at this book, I'm like, let's do America Deconstructed. It totally came from that show
Yeah.
because I'm like, we're just deconstructing layers of America.
Well, it's good. Yeah. It's an excellent title because one of the I indeed had the question. It's reading it right now. Explain the title of your book, America Deconstructed. So there you go. You just mind read that. I can tick that questions off. I don't have that many questions prepared, but I do have another question prepared for you, which is therefore I was confused with the title. American Dream. There is somebody who is currently in the White House who said the American dream is dead. Right now, I think a lot of the immigrants over time then, and that's my question to you now as well, the people that you interviewed, to what extent is the so-called the American dream, is that not an issue, a topic for them? Does that still exist for these people? Or for yourself as well?
So I mean, it's funny because me and Shama, we always talk about it because, we've had the struggle of publishing this book. And, American Dream is sold to you that, you do the hard work.
Yeah.
And the dream just happens. But, there's a lot more than just hard work that goes into the dream. I think personally, because I think we have a good book, but as new authors, with the short story collection, we've had our issues with selling it to publishers. It's never been, the writing sucks, and I can take that. But it's always been, I don't know if it's going to sell because you're new authors, you don't have a platform. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not a celebrity. I wasn't born a celebrity. I don't know what to say, So I think the American dream exists, but I think what we don't hear is there's a lot of hard work. And I think you might have to change the dream a little because, for instance, for me, when I went to college here, they sold the idea that I was going to be a design engineer. You're going to design these like super cool gadgets. And I'm like, I can do this. This is what I look for. But that's not what I do right now.
Right.
So it's just a different version of the American dream. I get paid well. I'm still an engineer, but I'm not designing anything, Yeah. And so I think most people that we interviewed in this book, most people come here for the American dream. Some people are here because, they came to join their spouse, get married to someone, whatever. But everybody realizes that, the American dream, when you set out from your country, maybe the dream you had is not exactly the dream you're living, but that's okay because you're still living a good lifestyle. Yeah. You're providing for your family, and that's kind of what I got from the book.
Okay, well that's cool. That was indeed on my mind because it's still the American dream. It's still, if you work hard enough, you can possibly make it in a slightly different dream, and that's what you said. Yes. Can you share? I know I can read some on the website as well. I've got that tab open as well. The American Deconstructed. There you have some outlines. An alien in America. Azim Karimi is a happy man. I saw a ripe mango I'd like to pluck. What of the stories of the people that you've interviewed, what jumped out most? What made you heart warm or maybe sick in your stomach or happy, either or?
The story, the third one, there's, I think, a ripe mango I'd like to pluck. Uh-huh. These are two, this is a friend of mine from college. She's Nigerian. She's a very strong Nigerian woman. And an engineer.
You have to speak a little bit closer to the mic again.
Sorry. So she's a friend of mine. She's a Nigerian. And so when I interviewed her, she came to my house. She came with her husband. I decided to interview her. It became a couples interview, and it was really cute because it somehow went into an interview aspect, and I kept it just like an interview because I just couldn't make it into a story. So usually what we did was we interviewed people and we made it into a story. We added an intro, we changed the format with the content that we got. Yes. With her, we kept it as real as we could, simply because you could just see the banter of a couple. You could see the love. You could see her saying one thing and him saying a completely opposite thing. And I think that was very, very cute. It was just very cute. Like they were fighting over little things about, how they met and, he had his version and she had her version and, it was cute. The other one that was very disturbing was, I think there are some people coming to take me away or some, I think it's one of the later stories. And it's about Shaima's husband who, again, I said a 9-year-old boy who escaped the Taliban. And for someone who's close, we're all the same age. I couldn't not imagine selling eggs and potatoes without going to school, or sitting in a school, I mean outside a school, watching children go to school, wanting to go to school but can't afford to do it because you have siblings that you need to support. I mean, these are things, growing up on the Bollywood movies, you see that in movies in the 1970s,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the old world. And then, you see someone your age doing exactly the same thing in the late 90s, and you're like, wow, that was very disturbing. At the same time, you see the resilience of a little boy to just seek it, which was great.
Yeah.
And the other few stories that I mean, I think that a lot of people talked about loss, loss of a loved one back home and not being able to go back because of the flight.
Situation.
How long is this? Like going back to Asia, and those things. I mean, I have old grandparents in India, and I think for me that connected on a different level, because even though, I mean, thank God they're still alive, but when something were to happen, I'm like, yeah, by the time I get there, I probably will never get to see them, So these were I think that was the connection, I think, for me.
Okay. Good stuff. Excellent. Excellent. Closing towards the end of the interview, I have three questions left for you. Your book is crowdfunded, right? At this moment, at least that's a way to actually get this book published. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Why did you choose for that, and it's just the process around it?
So when we started writing this book, and once it was done, we pitched the idea to agents. Agents were very excited about it, but we were new authors, so they told us go to publishers. We went to publishers, and they said, "Oh, this is great. You should go back to agents." So
oh God.
did a lot of this zigzag a lot. We were as close to getting signed on by an agent, and then she said, "Oh, you went to the publisher that I would have pitched the book to, so I can't take you because you already pitched it to them." And so as new authors, it was just like this maze we were trying to just out of. And so we learned about Publishizer. Both of us being engineers, we'd heard about Kickstarter and, campaigns being crowdfunded on Kickstarter. So we looked up Publishizer, which is a crowdfunding campaign specifically for authors. And what they do is when you get to a certain number of pre-orders, they query your book to a certain number of publishers, and then publishers show their interest in the book. And, and then finally you sign on with one of them. And we like the idea because we want to get published. We don't want to do it the self-publishing route because there's still a little bit of stigma around it. And as new authors, we're like, we want this book to get more of a worldwide audience. I think this book can sell if only somebody took a chance. And so that's why we decided on Publishizer.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And when do you think this book is going to come out?
We're targeting the end of the year.
And the end of the year. Okay, we're recording this on April 17, 2017. So that's for people who are listening in the future. So towards the end of 2017, that's the aim for this. Okay, excellent. Now, the most difficult question is this one, but it's going to be easy for you, I guess, because you're so experienced. Can you give us, the audience, 3 tips to become more culturally competent from your own experience, please?
I think being more open to the culture that you're in, I think, and to other people's culture, wherever you come from. And for me personally, coming from India and moving to America, I think I had to be more open to the American culture, because I realized that if I don't accept it, I probably won't do too good here. Like I could sit and nitpick about every little thing that's different between India and America and ultimately get nowhere with it. So I think acceptance, respecting other cultures, because I said I travel a lot and I see so many people go in other countries and just being like, oh, that food is horrible. But I'm like, don't eat it. But you don't need to say that to someone's face that you don't like the food.
Yes.
Okay. And so respecting. And the third, I personally think it's important for people to get to know other cultures. I think the more you travel, the more you see the world, I think the more accepting you get of the world and of other people's culture. But if you're going to sit in your cocoon and say, oh, my world is amazing and this is the only place you're going to be, I don't think you will learn to accept someone else. That's what I think. And
what if you're not really in the ability to travel a lot or at all even?
Books. I think books take you into a world that I mean, we always have this debate. My husband's a big TV watcher, and I'm
Hmm.
not. I love books, and so we always go back and forth. I guess for people who don't read television, but the thing with television is, you got to filter out
Yeah.
the bad propaganda that they're giving about other countries.
Yes.
Versus, with books, I think it's a little more realistic because some of the people that write about other cultures have lived there, or at least have grown up in a family that is from that culture, or have done research on it. So
Yeah.
I
Good
think
stuff.
books,
Excellent.
media.
Chai, last question, the very easiest one. If people want to support your book, or if they want to get your book, how can they do that? What should they do? And then finally, how can they get in touch with you if they want to?
The Publishizer platform. So they need to go on Publishizer. It's very important because you could buy it on Amazon to the end of the year whenever it comes out, but that's not going to help us get published right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that they buy the book by the end of this month because our campaign goes offline at the end of the month.
Which is the end of April.
April,
Yes.
yes. And so there's a pre-order link. You can go click on it, and then you can just order the book. They take credit cards. The other thing is if we have speaking packages, if people want to hire us to come talk in their companies or organizations or whatever, that would help us as well because that'll give us a bigger chunk of pre-orders.
Yeah.
And if they want to get in touch with me, my email, I'm always available on my email.
And what's your email address? Or is that a secret?
Yes. It's C Sohan, so CSOHAN @gmail.com.
Got it. Okay, that's going to be in the show notes as well. culturematters.com/ click the podcast tab because it has another URL there. It's episode number 78, and do get this book. It's one of the things I really believe in, and I think it has a sequel in it as well. You can build on this idea. I truly believe this because the United States is so much built on immigrants, and it's there's no reason to believe that it won't be in the future. So, no, excellent idea. This is going to be on the website, of course, on social media, and no doubt you're going to promote this yourself, I hope.
Yes.
All right. Chai, excuse me, Chai, all the best with getting this published and getting this baby born for both of you, both for Shaima and for yourself as well. All the best, and I'm pretty sure we'll bump into each other in the future.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye.